Chapter 18, WCW Wrestling and Hulk Hogan. While employed at CNN in Atlanta from 1986 to 1996, there were extra freelance opportunities in other departments of Turner Broadcasting that I took advantage of. World Championship Wrestling was the biggest money-making entity of TBS at the time, and there were crew positions available for the live wrestling broadcasts. These productions would usually take place on Mondays at a civic center in Marietta, Georgia, one week, and in Gainesville, Georgia, the next week. The events would be shot so as to pretend that it was taking place in different U.S. cities. Talk about smoke and mirrors. There were some other wrestling shoots in Columbus, Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama, Greenville, South Carolina, Dothan, Alabama, and Montgomery, Alabama, usually less than 4 hours drive time from Atlanta. My position was that of cable grip, the guy that holds the cable behind the roaming camera shooter to keep it from getting caught and tangled up. There was also a short run for me as stage manager in the ring, but the grip position was more favorable. It saw more action. The Montgomery wrestling event was an interesting adventure. A typical WCW wrestling event would encompass the whole day. The production 18-wheeler would arrive in the morning, as would the crew. That time would be used to run cable, set up cameras, lights, and do a line check. Everyone would break for lunch, with the wrestlers arriving just in time to eat. On this day, everything was set up with a little time to spare. I decided to take a walk around the Montgomery Civic Center just before lunch. In passing a room that was obviously the kitchen, there was a gentleman in a waiter's uniform standing at a large silver prep table with what looked like about 50 small tossed salads lined up in rows in front of him. It appeared to be a typical food prep for a typical banquet. It was the type where each course is brought out to each person at the same time and where everybody eats the same thing. The usual mass-produced rubber chicken main course comes to mind. This man was standing there methodically and articulately placing one little cherry tomato on each salad. It didn't occur to me immediately, but an uneasy feeling suddenly came into play. If past experience was any clue, there was definite trouble here in River City. The normal lunch for a bunch of TV wrestlers would consist of a large all-you-can-eat buffet. These guys could practically swallow 3 or 4 whole chicken breasts before taking a breath. And hoping that this miniature salad assembly might be for another event, the TV director should probably be informed of the situation. I was right. While showing him the salad menagerie, a look of panic consumed his face. He, as did I, knew there was trouble brewing. When the word came to the wrestlers and crew that it was time for lunch, everyone was directed into a banquet room. It was just as I had pictured, a beige room with beige chairs, beige table linens, each place already set, and yes, there were the little salads sitting nicely at each table setting. To make matters worse, the waiters, dressed in uniforms the same color as the tablecloths, were attempting to escort each person to a seat at a table. This was not at all necessary for a bunch of hungry, steroid-laden gym rats who were ready to dive into a buffet. The TV crew could have cared less, but any way you look at it, the little salad followed by a rubber chicken entree accompanied by a potato and a few string beans loitering nearby arranged in a triangle wasn't going to cut it. It was definitely going to get interesting, so I calmly took a seat to just sit back and watch the fireworks. A few wrestlers sat down and consumed a few of the salads, and in clockwise direction would then move around the table to another place setting to wolf another one down. The remaining ring jumpers just decided to help themselves to several plates at a time from the warming racks. By the time the dessert racks rolled out, all bets were off. The banquet employees just gave up and jumped ship. It was now an out-and-out free-for-all. The crew chief finally ordered about 20 Domino's pizzas. That probably should have been the first choice. I strongly doubt that any more wrestling shows were ever shot in Montgomery again. WCW Wrestling had its own stars: Sting, Ric Flair, Elegante, the Fabulous Freebirds, just to name a few. Sometime later, Hulk Hogan eventually joined the WCW family. The opportunity to work with him on location occurred a few times. There were a couple of occasions where we just happened to work out together in the gym in the CNN Center. I found Hulk to be good people. Even after leaving CNN, the opportunity presented itself for me to bring my band in for some opening sets for the crowd just before the WCW tapings in the Augusta, Georgia Civic Center and at Atlanta's Omni Coliseum. The Atlanta gig happened on New Year's Day of 1996. My 2 boys, Roger and Ryan, got to meet Hulk and get their picture taken with him. That was big stuff for those kids. During the set in Augusta, we closed out with Jimi Hendrix's Voodoo Child. After our show and before the wrestling began, Hulk came outside to where we were loading the trailer. He told me that he used to be a bass player, and he said that he really liked my version of Voodoo Child. That was a real compliment. Weeks later, I came across WCW Wrestling on TV. It just so happened that Hulk was entering the ring, and the music he was using was, of all things, Voodoo Child. Had that been my song, it would have made for some good mailbox money. At another gig sometime later, my youngest son Ryan was with me. After playing Voodoo Child that day, He was really excited about something. He said, "Dad, you played the Hulk Hogan theme song." I almost doubled over laughing. I said, "Ryan, we have to talk." It was a wonderful and priceless moment to think of how it all transpired. Once again, the music made it happen.